What's up, folks? Welcome to the live stream. Thank you guys for being here tonight. I appreciate every single one of you guys for being here. Hi. Good job being in the live chat early. Big thank you to Lance Kirkman for our guest tonight. He got us turned on to Shanti here, who I'm meeting for the first time tonight. Seems like a wonderful person. Looking forward to bringing her on. I think I'm going to start doing little personal updates because I don't know if everybody here watches the vlog channel or not, but I don't, just in case you don't, I just wanted to do personal updates before we get started with the stream. Is that okay with you guys? Is it okay with you guys? I hope it's okay with you guys because I'm doing it anyway. Been strange. It's been a strange week social media wise. I don't know what's going on. People have been messaging me out of the blue with just these really not nice things. I don't understand why or where it's coming from, but there's been a lot of it recently. I don't understand where it's coming from. But I don't know. It's like people just telling me they hate my music. And it's like I don't understand where it's coming from. But there's a whole positive side to it. So this is what I'm gonna do with my personal updates at the beginning of every Triple B TV live. Now I'm gonna share the potential bad news, which maybe there won't be for the week, which would be great. But that's what this week's bad news. But the positive side of that is that I learned and remembered that I really just had something click in my brain. It's like, wait a minute, it's not my job to raise people's children who raised people or didn't raise their children right. It's not my job. I don't have time for that. I got my own kids to raise. So I realized that. I was like, I just block. I don't need to worry about trying to fix these folks. We'll just block. It'll be that simple. And plus I'm back on something. I'm drinking whiskey, I'm eating ice cream, and yet still somehow staying in the best shape of my life. I'm looking to hit into my 40s in the best shape I've ever been in my entire life, and I'm on track to do so. So everything is good. Tyler Nolan started following me on Instagram. He seems like a super cool dude. We've been chatting. Cocoa Blocks is coming out hot and fresh, and it's the best substrate on the market. Things are good. Oops, I broke it. It's all right. We'll get back to it later. But anyway, you're watching Triple B TV. And without further ado, my guest, Shanti Kriens. What's up, Shanti? Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me. And shout out to Lance. Thanks for hooking us up.
Yeah. So do you know Lance personally?
Yeah. He's one of my buddies from the expos up here in Oregon.
Fantastic. All right. The Pacific Northwest. That's I love the Pacific Northwest, actually. I used to spend time up there.
I love it when it's not raining.
Yeah. Well, I actually used to live up there for a little while. I started in a band up there. But why don't you go ahead and, for people that don't know who you are yet, I introduced you last week as the first place I saw you, a lot of your animals were featured. Snake Bites TV, when it was still being filmed, came out to one of the Oregon shows, and a lot of your animals were featured on one of Brian's videos there.
Yeah. We have been, me and the animals, we've been doing this since, 2015. I was doing it for a few years with another educating organization here in Oregon. I was doing it with them for a few years, and they started slowing down on their classroom programs and stuff. So I really wanted to get back into that because I find that teaching and talking to the kids and connecting with them is going to be what changes the next generation. It's great to do the fairs and the big stuff, but people are there for entertainment. They're not there to learn. And when they're at school, they're ready for that. So I broke off and started my own business, and Creature Teachers kind of happened. And my friend Amanda was helping me with it the first few years, but we got it going, and it's been really successful. Like, we had a huge growth the first 3 years for having no big network for the business and stuff. One of the other big educators here in Oregon, Rich Ritchie, been a big mentor to me. He's the Oregon Reptile Man, one of my good friends. He has helped me network, and I've helped fill in when he can't do things and misses schedules and things like that, when he's like, oh, I'm just overbooked. You want it? I'm like, yes. So been filling in and doing schools and library presentations. It's been a little rough this year as far as the interactive presentations since COVID, and interaction's kind of frowned upon at this time. So it's been a little bit rough. I think I've had 3 shows,
The
3 or 4 shows
the
all
entire
year.
year?
Yep.
Whew.
Whereas in a summer, I can have 60 or 70 shows, and that's super awesome. So, I mean, I don't do it for the money because the money barely covers the animal bills, but the money is helpful. But it's mostly just because I really just wanted to emulate Steve Irwin when I was a kid, and I wanted people to be excited about these things and not scared of them. And I mean, my biggest, seeing the biggest change has been with my immediate family. My, my grandparents were like, not so sure about that. My grandma on my stepdad's side, she is, her name's Penny. She's blind in one eye. It cracks me up because this snake is named Penelope and blind in one eye. Totally no, it was not a coincidence, but my grandma thinks I totally did it and named it for her. She now
Oh wait,
loves
it is a coincidence. That didn't happen on purpose?
Yeah. Yeah, it was the snake. I just picked a name that I thought the kids would be liking because it's real friendly sounding. It's not Chomp or Biter or Fang or something stupid. So Penelope just happened to be blind in one eye, and it's the same eye that my grandma's blind in. So she totally thinks I named the snake for her. So
I can see why she would think that you did it on purpose.
understandable. But
I've got a snake I named after my wife's grandma, and I did that one on purpose. They have the same first and middle name. It was out of love, not out of spite.
Right. Yeah, the snake's a sweetheart. She is my favorite animal ambassador. She is everybody else's favorite too. She's just super mellow, super chill. The deformity in her eye that makes her blind. I've had, usually she sits like this when I'm talking to kids, and then they go through the line and they pet. I've had, I can't count how many kids just last minute jab for the eyeball. Is that real? I'm like, dude, bro. And then she gets hit in the eye and still doesn't bite or hiss or do nothing. She's just a really forgiving animal.
Those are
very, very, very good temperament for this kind of work. She's not nervous or stressed easily. So she's a really perfect snake for this kind of stuff.
Those are very good qualities for educational animal. You want to be able to take the occasional poke in the face because a kid stray hands, it happens.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No matter how much I want to like poke them back, can't really do that.
Yeah. You learn how much patience you have when you're doing that stuff. I had just I had just started just last year started getting into it. I have a buddy out here, Brandon Fowler, who moved to Wisconsin. Yeah. So I took over roaming reptiles for him out here in California, and but I was just getting into the swing of it, just starting to feel my little groove, and that's kind of right when everything hit and started going downhill, and I was like, no, I literally I did a few virtual shows, for the libraries and stuff, and video recorded videos, but there's been zero in person since then. Yeah. But like you said, you've only had 3 or 4 this year?
Yeah, I had 3 or 4 in person, and they were all during the initial first quarantine shutdown, and kids missed their birthday parties and didn't have anything. So their parents would be like, hey, if we wear masks, can you come out and do this? I'm like, absolutely. We can make tons of space. It'll be totally fine. The virtual thing for me did not take off very well. I had a couple of people super interested, but kind of fell off the turnip wagon and didn't have a bunch of people follow through or be super interested in that. And I mean, it is an interactive education. So it's really, you could just turn on Discovery if you want to watch reptiles. So, I mean, it's hard to get kids excited about seeing something on a screen.
Oh, yeah.
When you can have them touching stuff. Like, it's like you can watch someone play with Legos or you can play with Legos. They're going to play with Legos. They want to touch. They want the kinesthetic. They learn by touching and feeling. That's my big thing is like when they touch a snake and, oh, it didn't bite me. It didn't eat me. It didn't do anything bad. That's what sinks in. It's not how much I tell them it's not dangerous. It's not how many times I reiterate that it can't eat you. It's too small, whatever. It's them holding it and touching it. Oh, you really, they're really nice. Not that bad. So it's hard to do that and inspire that same level of excitement via video. So
have you always been into reptiles? Did I miss that, or is it?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Since you were a kid.
I've always been into animals since I could like walk. Like my mom said, it drove her nuts because I'd get the animal encyclopedia from the library and I just sit there and look at the encyclopedia of animals all day. The reptile thing really took off when Crocodile Hunter on Animal Planet started.
That's right.
That was like my childhood is Crocodile Hunter. That's what I lived on. I'm like, oh my God. Oh, I was freaked out because Bindy's birthday's the day before mine. And like I lived and breathed that stuff. The spiders, the snakes, the crocodiles, all of it. I love the fuzzy stuff too. I have my own fuzzy critters, but I have a special fondness for the scaly and unloved critters, just because Steve found such a way to connect to people that had no interest in reptiles at all, and everyone knows him. You say Steve Irwin, everyone knows what he did. It doesn't matter. He loved animals, and he was going to die poking something he shouldn't to try and make you love it too. And literally that's what happened. And I'm kind of like, it's not a bad way to go. Doing what you love, making other people love and respect them. I'm down for that.
Yeah, true. I think that, there's a lot of people that don't ever find what it is they really want to do. And so when you see somebody that is that, and he definitely exuded, it didn't seem like, I mean, I've never got to meet him in person. I actually didn't see a lot of Steve. I was into reptiles before Steve when he came along. So when he was there, I watched the stuff, but that was maybe at a time in life I didn't really even have TV, so I wasn't even exposed to much TV at all. Like my parents got rid of the TV when I was like 8, and we never got it back, which was a good thing. But I definitely missed a lot of Steve Irwin stuff until like
a lot of the cultural phenomenon of that.
Yes, definitely did. But from what I've seen of him, I mean, it wasn't like it didn't seem like he was putting on some kind of thing. I'm sure it was
authentic, genuine enthusiasm and joy.
Yes.
And I'm a pretty outgoing, exuberant person anyway, but I look like an introvert compared to Steve. So I'm pretty out there and I'll talk to pretty much anyone if you get me on a topic with reptiles. But I really try to emulate the joy and the enthusiasm, not just how cool it is, but like, oh my gosh, dude, you're touching this. You've never even seen one in person, and now you're touching one. Like I really try to emulate that. The joy is infectious joy when it comes to these guys.
So when you first started doing it, did it like how did it progress? Like from the first time you did an educational program to say last year before everything hit. Like how quickly did it build? I mean, what was it like for you?
Oh, let's see. When I was helping at the other organization, I only got to go to a couple of classroom programs. I hated public speaking. I sucked at it. I didn't like it. I'd be sweating bullets. Just was a mess. But I went anyway because I knew I wanted to do that, and then I had to practice. And so I would go as backup, and I'd watch a whole bunch of them, of the other employees do their presentations, and I'd take notes and try to fill in the parts that I felt like I would do well with. And then they started kind of just throwing me in and just letting me do bits and pieces. So I'd just do 1 or 2 of the animals, and then I would do half of the presentation, or then I started doing the whole one. And that started back in like 2013, 14, and then kind of ending in 15. And then when I started my business, it was a lot of Richie helping me find the connections that I needed to be like, here's the contacts for the libraries in the Pacific Northwest. Get on their list so you can be on the roster, and then they can call you if they want you. They won't know who you are, but at least some of them will be interested because some of them are going to have different schedules and it won't line up with other entertainers, and they just need stuff that the kids are going to love. They don't have to love it. The kids have to love it. And I was like, all right, cool. So it really just started growing from that. And then after a couple of years, we have had multiple repeat offenders, libraries and schools that really loved us. The animals, how great they were. They really liked the fact that I'm a female educator, which was really cool. Because as far as I know, I'm really the only one out here in the Pacific Northwest that's really pushed to be a public face a lot, not just kind of doing it from my house. So I'm going to bring my animals to my kids' school and hang out. Like I try to go anywhere from Klamath Falls up to like Moses Lake. I've been all over the place. Moses Lake's in really North Washington, and Klamath Falls is on the California border. So I try to go all over the place.
And you're based in Portland?
Yep.
Wow. So that's a
I do a lot of driving.
Yeah, that's
a lot of driving.
That's a mission to go all the way down to. Did you say Northern Washington?
Yeah, that's where Moses Lake is. So I've been up there and done presentations at their art museum. they'll have a bird day, but I would bring reptiles out to spice up the bird day event. And then I'd usually borrow some of my friends' macaws or African grays and stuff like that. Their Goffins, cockatoos, and bring out some birds with it as well. But the animals and I have done some mileage. We've done quite a lot of driving.
Yeah, that's a mission. I mean, I've done the drive many times from Northern California to Portland and then up to Northern Washington. That's not a joke. How do
Yeah, it's some serious mileage.
So how do you successfully travel with the animals on those kind of like what steps do you take? What is it? How do you do it successfully, like to make that journey?
I've traveled with mammals and stuff before. Mammals are way more work. Birds are way more work. Thankfully, the reptiles are pretty hardcore, and they go through with me. So we will usually leave. I mean, when we have the long days like Klamath Falls, we'll leave at 3 or 4 in the morning, get down there, get about halfway. I'm like, okay, the sun's coming up, check everybody's stretch, let them get out of the bin for a bit, and then back in the bin and get down there. My goal is always to get there an hour before my presentations begin. Like I'm set up, I'm ready to go, and now I have an hour before it starts so that the animals can chill out. They don't have to be in a moving vehicle. They're not going from a moving vehicle to being manhandled and having kids touching them back into a bin and go. So I give them that hour to decompress after the drive. We just let them chill under our display table and just relax, quiet. There's no noise. Just let them chill. I'll let the big snakes out and let them stretch. The lizards walk around. And if they have to crap, then they can do that beforehand. So let them do all the things. And then usually right after a presentation with all that chaos, they go right back into the bins and then into the car where it's quiet again. So try to do a lot of that. And if we are gone on like a 4 or 5 day circuit, like I have in Klamath Falls, where they give us 2 or 3 libraries every day for like a week. When we're down there for an extended period of time, I try to get the hotel nice and hot, make the room nice and warm for them. And then they have somewhere to chill and hang out, soak them in the bathtub, do whatever. Just to try and let them relax a bit.
Sure.
And it's just not constant stress for them, because being around several hundred kids multiple times a day is very stressful.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I try very hard to have a rotation of animals as well. In my schedule in my head, how I do it is I have like 3 weeks of rotation worth of animals. So I usually take 7 to 10 animals per presentation. So on week A, we have these individuals that go. That next following week and that following week after that, they have off. But then we have the next round of animals that all fill in that same hole for a lizard, a turtle, a snake, whatever. Then there's the different individuals that fill in on week 2. And then the different individuals that fill in for week 3. So they get like a 2-week break between the manhandling of children. They get a chance to eat, digest, poop, do their thing, and then back to the rotation again. So I try to keep it a 3-week rotation between all the animals. So seems to work fairly well.
And so at its peak, how often were you having shows? Like several times a week, or?
Oh God, during the summer was always my busiest time. I had a much slower seasons during the school year, because schools have different insurances than the libraries. So we'd get into some, and we'd have a lot more birthday parties during the year. But summer was always our peak, and that was mostly after school and summer reading programs and library programs. That was the bulk of the business we've had so far in the 3 or 4 years we've been open. And we would be doing shows every single day of the week, except for Sundays sometimes, because I tried to keep Sundays for church. So it was very busy, and it would be 2 or 3 shows a day every week. And then every once in a while, there'd be like a day off. I'm like, okay, I've got to feed some of these animals. I got to go out. I can't have my friend go out and do it. I need to go and see everybody, because I've been on the road and driving all week. I have a 5-year-old and an 18-month-old. And in the last few years, when he was younger, it's like, oh my God, I haven't seen my kids in like 3 days.
Wow, dude,
so
you're going for
it would get busy. And the firstborn, he would go with me on a lot of them. He would just go with me, because I was like, sorry, kid, you're my co-pilot. So he was brand new baby, and he was 3 months old when I started the business. So he's been with me and going all the time. The 18-month-old is a little bit more of a demon spawn. So he's a little bit more hard to control. So he stays with Nana. But the 5-year-old, up and until this point, has been very well behaved. So he usually goes with, and he'll hang out and hide behind the table and play with the animals. But It's just been a very active part of their life. So I try to keep it real. It's like, look, they're not spooky. It's not weird. It's just their life. Sorry. You're just going to have to clean up the monitor crap that just crapped in the bathroom. Sorry about that.
Man, that's impressive. That's a lot of shows. Is it safe to say that you were doing more shows than anybody else in your area at that rate?
Oh no, not even close.
Wow.
Not even close. I wish. So Rich Ritchie, my mentor, shout out again, go Rich. Oregon Reptile Man. He's been doing this like 35 years, and he does like 500 something shows a year. He's like on the level with Brandon Fowler. Like they were just doing dozens of shows a week, like insane amounts. I'm just like, I don't even know what to do with that. Like they have been doing it for a long time. They have the networking, they have the connections to the schools and stuff, probably that grandfathered in before all the crazy insurance policies and stuff, so they could just work them into the seasons. So I think that worked a lot. But as a new small business that nobody's worked with a lot one-on-one, it's hard to break into some of those schools and school districts. The Timberland Library regional district is up in Washington, and they've got like 30 something libraries, and they just put me on their list, and then all of the librarians will pick me. So I had like 2/3 of their libraries my first summer, and then the following summer I had almost all their libraries. So I've been able to go to those. And if Rich is busy, or if he's already gone but they still want another reptile show, they'll put him at the beginning of summer, me at the end of summer type thing. So I by no means am covering nearly as much as my friend Rich has, and I'm sure there's other educators like Brandon and Rich that are doing it, but I'm still new in the market and the business, so still trying to get myself out there and trying to make more business so it doesn't have to be a side business anymore.
Nice. Yeah. Speaking of Brandon, he just recently shut down for a bit because it's just been they haven't been able to do anything. But he died. I did talk to him the other morning. I just wanted to let people know that he's not done. He's just shutting it down until things can get back. Like anybody who knows Brandon knows there's no way he would just be done and just like I'm calling quits for good. But I think he was catching a lot of. Yeah, he was catching a lot of heat from people for like, oh, you're just gonna shut down. Yeah, he was. He told me he's getting all kinds of. Maybe it's a thing this week. People are just sending rude messages, instant messenger. But he so is. Rude. It's literally just until he can get back up, till things open back up to where he can actually do shows again, and he'll be right back at it. I wanted to pass that on to anybody.
It's really hard. It's not like we can throw our stuff on Etsy. It's not like, hey, we can still sell from home, yo. Like. We sell ourselves. We sell our voice. We sell our knowledge. We sell the ability to touch our animals. That's all interactive. And hey, I got to be right here with you, one-on-one. Look at me. Focus. Like, I got to be with you for you to get that.
Yeah.
Get what you're paying for.
And connected by snakes. Sometimes you have a snake on one shoulder, snake on the other person's shoulder, and it brings you right together to where you're like, literally, exactly. That has to happen. There's no way around it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really, I haven't caught much negative flack from anyone. I've had a couple people frustrated that they weren't able to do anything. I'm like, hey, I'll throw a mask on. I mean, I can't mask the animals, but you guys can throw yourselves in a mask and we can do this, but it's on your guys' comfort level. I'm willing to do a lot to get these animals in kids' hands. But that being said, you guys need to be comfortable. If you're not comfortable, then we're not doing it.
Do you guys have to have some kind of liability insurance up there or anything like that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'd imagine you would.
I mean, I'm sure there's tons of mom and pop stuff where kids say, hey, mom, got a snake, and they show up to school and they just do the thing. But because I wanted this to be upfront, big, legit, like my business is licensed with the state of Oregon. We do our taxes. We had to get insurance. It's about $1,000 a year. But it's like $1 million coverage. So one of my animals bites somebody, even if the kid starts it, I don't have to deal with it. I got insurance to cover it. It keeps my animals and me safe. It also keeps me from having to like get rid of my home and have any personal liability, so my business has the liability. So it's all around a much better course of action. And I know a lot of people in the hobby just kind of do this under the table, like as a side thing when they have animals and sell stuff. But by God, if something goes wrong, it goes really wrong. And it gets all the news flack. And I'm just like, I do not want to deal with that. Like,
no doubt.
I don't.
That's why I hadn't done it, because I'd only had, all the schools were doing virtual stuff, and then I had only had like
Mm-hmm.
two birthday parties hit me up, and then one of them I couldn't even end up making, so I canceled our liability insurance until we can start doing
Yeah.
shows again, which is unfortunate. I didn't
Oh, for
want
sure.
to, but if we're not doing the shows, I was like, I
Yeah.
can't. And I talked to the company.
Yeah.
They're like, as soon as you start back up, just call. We can just get it going right back up when you're ready to go
Yeah.
do shows again. Because
Yep.
like you
I
said,
paid
it can
for
be
it again this
expensive.
year just because I'm hoping. I was like, I did 3 shows this year. That wasn't even enough to cover the bill for the insurance. But then I was like, oh, insurance is due again. All right, well, I'll renew it because, maybe next year will be normal. But I'm not holding my breath, but I'm covered in case. So insurance is good to go, and I'm ready to go if anyone else wants it. So
Yeah, I'm hoping it. Oh man, I'm sure everybody's in the same, but I don't think there's anybody that's hope. There may be a small minority of people that's like, if it could stay shut for a long time, that would be great. But I think that's a very small minority of people that are on that ship. I think everybody else is like, if we get back to doing like things like, especially with stuff like this, like you're saying, like there's just not the same as having the animals there in person with the kids. There's just nothing that compares to it.
Yeah. Like, I mean, on one hand, I'm sad the virtual stuff didn't take off for me personally, like doing the birthday parties and stuff. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, I feel like it's a disservice. Like, I don't have enough bulk to say, well, I can still do 10 of these virtuals a week and only go to one in person. I'm like, I got zero business anyway. But then it's like, I'll just put on a mask because I'd rather the kids go and see the animals. But it's just been real dead slow. So, I mean, I know my friends have been still able to maintain some business, but they've had huge losses this year as well. So it's been really hard because, I mean, for me, my animals pay for themselves. They're not mowing lawns or anything, but like that's them earning their money. They earn their money for the vet bills, their food that they're eating, even though we're not working. The electric bill I still have to pay for. Anything and everything. Like the last year or the year before, we spent like $2,500 in vet bills. Just doing basic exams, x-rays, fecals, blood work, checking everybody because they're all rescues. They come to us all messed up and banged up. I think one of my animals I had bought as a graduation after college present to myself, like forever ago. The rest of them are all rescues. They all came to me banged up. So I'm like, I got to make sure they're all good and check on them and do those things, make sure they go through their quarantine and do all these things and eat and get them at a healthy weight before I take them anywhere, do all these things before they even go out in the public. And then not having any of that income this year has been really hard. So my day job right now that's been covering all the animal bills has been my warehouse job at Amazon. So it's like, okay, well, thank God I make enough to keep everybody fed and gone to the vet, but it's been rough. It's been real rough. So, and that's with my having whatever little business I had. The guys, the big ballers like Rich and Brandon, it's a big cut. It's a big difference in pay when you're expecting to make this much and you have this many animals to all of a sudden having a third of the income and you still have all those animals. And you're supposed to be living on that with the people part too. I'm like, oh, mine's a side business, so I always have something else going, but it's rough. So I've been feeling very bad for all of our educators. I'm like, soon, guys, soon. It'll come around soon.
Yeah, sure hoping so. Amazon warehouse job. Well, Amazon sure isn't hurting this year.
Oh, Lord, they've been just doing wonderful. So I've been loving that job. It's keeping me active and busy since I'm not doing any shows and stuff during the summer. So it's a good way to keep myself in shape and distracted from missing my reptile shows.
Is it moving? I don't really want. If you want to talk about Amazon, I don't really want to necessarily. But I'm just curious. Out of curiosity, I haven't talked to anybody that's actually worked at an Amazon warehouse. Are you just like going?
Oh yeah, the entire 10, 11-hour shift. It's constant going until you're on your break or lunch. I work in a fulfillment center in Troutdale, so I can flip jobs all day. They'll move me around the warehouse as needed since I'm a flex employee. So sometimes I'm over here putting packages into the walls that the packers use. Sometimes I'm stocking boxes. Sometimes I'm running pallet jacks, or I'm all over the place. But I never stop moving until it's break. So you have to be physically willing to exercise and sweat yourself to death because that's all you're doing in that warehouse is working.
Yeah, I guess.
Lazy.
Yeah, I guess you got to be moving. You're probably burning a good amount of calories in a day.
Thank God, because I got to get rid of this COVID-15, this quarantine 15 I gained, man. I don't fit my work pants. I'm like, man, I got to get these things to fit again because I don't want to go spend the money I don't have buying new clothes.
I finally just jumped on that boat myself in the last like month and a half. I've been going for it hard. It's different when you don't have to, I guess. I'm like, I wake this morning, I got up at 5. Ran to the pool, swam, ran back. I've been doing it every day for a while. Yeah, I'm going for it, man.
Good.
I'm trying to go into my 40s at the best shape I've ever been in my entire life. And
Good. That is a good goal.
yeah.
Do it.
It's so far it's working out pretty well. Yeah, it's been good. I wanted to first of all, we got some super chats rolling in. We got one from Marvel Balls. Sorry, not Marvel Balls. Sorry, I didn't mean to give you an accidental shout out there, Kayla. Joe Wolf guy says she agrees with you on sharing the reptile joy. There's like that. Ooh, we got a little crocodilian popping up in there.
Yep.
And then
that's our little smooth-fronted caiman.
That's freaking sweet. Alyssa Griffin Davis had an awesome idea too here in the chat. A new way of doing educational shows to get an ice cream truck, fill it with reptiles, and visit neighborhoods.
I love it. Have it start playing the Crocodile Hunter theme song instead of ice cream songs.
Look at that thing. That is. What'd you say it was a blue caiman?
This one's a smooth-fronted caiman.
Okay.
We thought he was a Cuvier's or a dwarf, but his patterns line up a little bit more with the smooth-fronted, and he could be a hybrid. But he was one of our rescues that we got 2 years ago in 2018. I was working at the exotic vet at that point still, so my bills were cheaper for the animals. But the state vet had called me and was like, "Hey, are you at work?" I'm like, "Yeah," and the vet, Ryan Schultz, he's like, "Hey, I got a new confiscation and it's nice and tiny. It'll fit in your house." I'm like, "Okay, bring it over." So he drives up from Roseburg and he brings this tiny little box. He's like, "Look what I found." He gives me this little guy and he's like, "Here you go." Because he gets alligators all the time. People freaking buy alligators online for $12, get it shipped to their house, and then they have to get confiscated because crocodilians are illegal as pets in Oregon.
Gotcha. So you can't even have like a license or you...
So the few educators that I was talking about that have permits or letters of exemption for educational purposes, they're all grandfathered in with what they have. But because Fish and Wildlife and the state vet and USDA have to have somewhere for these guys to go when they get confiscated. Hey, we raided a crack house. There was a gator in a shoebox in the closet. You want it? Like, it's either going to get euthanized or it can go and be used as an educational tool. My friend Blaine's got the Newport Zoo down in Newport, Oregon, and he takes a bunch of the rescues. Like, there's a few different places that are still able to take the confiscated animals. And it took me 4 years of painstakingly dragging my nails across the chalkboard. Hey, I'm still here. I still want a permit. Hello, somebody. They kept blowing me off because I'm just this nobody. But I had enough of my friends that were big names for 30 years saying, hey, no, she actually knows what she's doing. Give her a shot. She's another person you'll be able to get animals in there and get them off your plate if you don't want to euthanize them. And I kept saying, hey, just up front, hey, Ryan, right now I'm in a house. I don't have a big property. I can't build out ponds and stuff. So if you got big 10-footers, I can't take those. But if you got little caimans, I can do that right now. So he's like, all right, I don't usually get them, but I'll keep an eye out. And we had our first alligator given to us, and it was about 2 feet long. Took it to the vet because the people who had surrendered it said, it won't eat. I don't know what's wrong with it. For one, it was super cold. But when it did warm up, it was still not hungry. And I'm like, that's weird. Took it in, did x-rays. It had eaten a whole bunch of suction cups from the temperature things in its cage. And it hadn't eaten in months. So by the time I was like ready and able and sitting there, I'm like, okay, would it survive surgery at this point or is it too weak? And my vet's like, nope, it's too skinny, it's too emaciated, it wouldn't survive the anesthesia. So we ended up putting it down. Couldn't do the surgery for it. This guy rolled around a couple months later and he came up to me the day before Halloween and dropped him off at the vet and was like, he's only like 2 months old. He still has an umbilical bump. So he's still soaking up his yolks, but he seems pretty pissy. I think he'll eat for you. I'm like, thank God. So did all his blood work, sexed him, did x-rays, make sure he didn't have metabolic bone or anything starting up with him because they can get that pretty young and it's really sad. I've had a few different animals that larger name businesses have sold, and then my friends bring them to me. I pay for them to go get x-rays, and it's like you can't even see their bones on the x-rays because they're so they're not dense. There's no calcium. There's no anything for those babies to grow with, and you can barely see their bones on X-rays.
Wow.
Heartbreaking. Tortoises, monitors, all kinds of stuff. So do a lot of it, trying to get this one to grow up healthy. These guys don't get big, but their attitudes do. So he's never going to like me, but it's a one-sided love affair. It's fine.
It looks like he's being pretty chill, right? I mean, you're being very gentle in the way you're handling, but he's just been chilling there.
This is actually incredibly good for him. Normally he's gaping, his mouth's open, and he's always like, crying, like, Mom, come get this bitch. Why is she touching me? Get her off. Like, he's always mouthing off and being a smart ass to me. So this is great. His mouth's shut. He's chill. His eyes aren't like super constricted. They're like dilated. He's just relaxed. So this is like a good step. But this has also been like 2 years now. So it's been, I got him, well, I guess October 2018. Yeah, it's just been over 2 years we've had this guy.
So how much bigger do those guys generally get? I mean,
these ones, the females will get around 6-7 feet, and the males get around that size, but they're the second smallest. So he's not going to get very big. He eats like crazy. He's a voracious little eater. He's just tiny. He's gotten length, but his poundage, like, I'm like, bro, why are you just shitting it all out? Like, I don't get it. So he's a feisty little dude. So
it hasn't been to any shows yet, or has
he actually has.
Nice.
He got to since we only had like 2 or 3 shows booked this year, and most of them I knew about pretty early on in the year. I figured it's not a heavy schedule. He'll be fine. They're spread out like a month apart. It'll be fine. So he went to all 3 of the parties we had this year. And then he had gone to the last expo we had, which was last January, or was it? No, which was the one in Oregon? I think that was October. Last October, we did one in Albany. So I took him to that. My permit is only good for the state of Oregon. So even though I have one, Washington Fish and Wildlife won't recognize it. They won't acknowledge it or respect it. So if I take him up there, I am illegally traveling with him. So last October, when we did our Albany Expo, he got to go to his first expo, and he did okay. He did small little outings with everybody because he would see hams coming at him, and he just go and wants to eat them. So,
right, so
we had to do a lot of this. We pat back here on his back and tail, so he doesn't see anyone coming at him. So this is actually super great right now. So he's super chill. He's not crying. He's not throwing fits. So
yeah, he looks super chill. I
don't like the idea of taping mouths just because they have so many nerve endings around that end of their face. But if he's an asshole, he's an asshole. Sorry, you still have to get your mouth taped. But I really try to do a lot more desensitizing work so that it's not a problem and we don't have to tape them if I don't have to.
So it's not, you know, because here in California, it's my understanding that like alligators at shows technically have to be taped up. So you don't have to do that up there.
That's how it used to be when I went with the other organization that I had worked with for a couple of years. Depending on the county, it was county rules. So different counties had different rules. Some of the county fairs we did, they needed the animals restrained. Some of them were like, technically, but they knew of the business we worked with for so many years, so they didn't care because they knew we were all very careful. Some of them was like, we don't care, but Fish and Wildlife's going to do random walkthroughs. You probably should have it, all squared away. It really just depended on the situation, on how much follow through people had. I've never had anyone ask me to tape him. So I think they just trust my judgment on that. And it's like, look, if he gets feisty, he just goes back and he's in. Super easy. I don't want to have to tape him so that he can be like restrained so your kid can touch him. There's plenty of other stuff they can touch.
No doubt. It might be a county thing here
animals
too.
Out unnecessarily.
Right. It might be a county thing too here now that I think about it. I think it's just like some of the counties down south because we have some guys that have alligators out here and they've never had to tape them, but even at our big shows at the county thing. So I think it's actually a county thing here as well. But
yeah. And the county rules are stupid. I'm sorry. I try to follow all the rules, get all the permits, all the things that I need, but half the time they're moronic. For instance, cane toads, super poisonous. They look like every other freaking toad out there except they get bigger. If they got loose here in the Pacific Northwest, they would do just fine with the cold temps. They'd lay eggs, have bunches of babies, can't tell what's what. They'd wreak havoc. I don't need a permit for that. I can have a cane toad, no issues. Pixie frog, little water balloon of a frog that would freeze to death out here. I had to have a permit for that. Stupidest thing ever. So it's and technically it's illegal to even sell pixie frogs in Oregon without a permit. So, and people sell them at the expos all the time because there's no follow through. There's not enough footwork from the agencies to actually enforce it. But technically that's a rule. Clark County in Vancouver, technically you can't have a snake over 6 feet. And since ball pythons can reach over 6 feet, they're illegal. Multnomah County, technically a hognose is venomous. You can't have it inside Portland limits, inside Multnomah County. But people sell them at the pet stores all the time. Yes, there's no enforcement. The agencies don't care. They just make stupid rules that are blanket statements with no follow through, no real knowledge of how these animals work biologically. I'm like, okay, we sell tarantulas and hognose, and their venoms are about the equivalent of a bee sting. You're telling me no hognose, but we can sell tarantulas. What? Who did you talk to make these rules? It makes me want to like it just drives me nuts.
Yeah, it does make me wonder who is being talked to make those, because and they're all over the place. You see all over the entire country. They seem to be all out of whack.
Well, they make blatant statements with no real science to back it up, and it's very frustrating. During my time at OSU, they have a fish and wildlife program. I very much wanted to be in it until I started hearing some of the stuff that was coming out of it, and I'd have my students, my cohorts, branching over into classes that I was in, and they'd be like, Burmese pythons lay like 5-6 clutches a year. They breed like rabbits. They have babies all the time. That's why there's a problem in Florida. I'm like, no, hold on. We're going to have a come to Jesus talk real quick right now. That's not true. Maybe once a year they have a clutch. If they're a super healthy snake, maybe you get them every other year. Like, I mean, these snakes are dumping their resources into just one clutch of 60 or 70 babies, and then maybe 2 survive to adulthood. The reason there's a problem is because Florida is amazing for reptiles, and people suck and keep turning their pets loose. And now there's enough for a breeding population, and we're never going to get rid of them. True. So that's just a human error. It's not the snake's fault. It's not from here. It's from Asia. It was living in someone's tank. They didn't want it. They got rid of it. Same thing happened with the snakehead fish, rock pythons, retics, tegus, iguanas. All of those don't live in Florida. They do now because of people. So I have to have these talks where it's just like it blows their mind. I mean, there's cane toads in Florida now too, and I'm like, maybe the snakes will start eating the cane toads and we'll knock some of the invasive species back when they eat each other. But really, it's just it's astounding to me because I live so heavily into the animal and invasive species and conservation. It's so hard for me to realize that so many people have so many horrible notions about wildlife. How do you expect them to commingle and live side by side with wildlife that they have no actual facts about? Like, it's slightly horrifying. Yeah. I'm like, that's part of the reason I expose my kids to so much with the animals. I'm like, you are going to be being a missionary for reptiles. You're going to be talking about this, and this is common sense knowledge that you're going to be sharing, because for you, it is common sense. For other people, it's weird, freak, random knowledge, like, that they won't necessarily need, but hopefully it takes to heart and they remember it. Like, that's all I can tell you. Sorry, kid. Like, my son will be like, oh yeah, I have a spider and his name's Aragog, because he loves Harry Potter. And his spider is a king baboon tarantula, and he's huge. And it's like, until he like asks me to show them a picture, they're like, oh my God. And it's like sitting on his shirt. Then they're like freaking out. But like, they think he's just joking, or he's got like a stuffed animal. I'm like, no, sorry. Like, he actually does have a spider. So it just weirds people out. They're not used to that, because that, sadly, as diverse as our nation gets, reptiles are still considered an exotic freak corner hobby. They're not mainstream enough. It's gotten more mainstream, but I still have a hard time with the reactions people have. It's almost like they're reptile racists. They freak out when you say, oh, you have a snake? What are you buying crickets for? Why are you buying crickets? What's that? Like, it still makes people uncomfortable.
Yeah,
and it
totally
boggles my mind that can still be a thing.
Me too, especially like in a place like Oregon. I mean, they just legalized like everything up there, didn't they?
I know, pot, coke, everything else, but can't have a pixie frog without a permit. Whatever, folks.
That's the astounding thing to me, is like what the audacity of the human species to call some other species invasive. It's like,
right? Yeah, a big point in my conversations, because most people who haven't heard that term, invasive species, I was like, all right, raise your hand if you've seen a dandelion. Raise your hand if you've seen a starling, those little black birds that make noise and poop on your cars. Those aren't from here. They're from Europe. Did any of y'all know that? They're not even from here. But we don't care because they're not causing problems. The only time we have a problem with invasive species is when they are interfering with our lives.
Right.
Like, that is the only problem. And all they're trying to do is live. They're not out there saying, I'm going to mess up this dude's lawn because I don't like him. They're out there digging and doing the things they're supposed to do because they're trying to find food. And they're in a different ecosystem than what they should be. And they're just trying to make the best of it. And I have to remind people of that because I'm all for the culling of invasive species because our native species need to be protected too. But it's real, like red ear sliders, huge issue in Oregon. I'm from Tennessee. That's where they're native to. Let them go crazy, whatever. Out here, our poor little native turtles are getting pushed out of nesting. They're getting pushed out of food. They are way more passive than the red ears. We are very aggressive feeders, very pushy, bossy. They take the best basking spots. They're just an aggressive breed of turtle. And like, y'all want to, help? Start fishing out red ear sliders and make some turtle suits. Get them out. Like, let our native turtles do their thing because they're the ones that are struggling. The red ear sliders don't affect us, so most people don't care. Again, we only care as a species when something's interfering with our ease of life.
Yeah, no doubt.
So
don't get me wrong. I'm team people. I'm definitely team people. Like, I want us to stay. But if we were going to really eradicate the species that are affecting most of other species negative, we'd have to offer ourselves, and then that would be the number one invasive species.
Cat. Meow. Don't get me going on cats. Cats, right next to humans, have caused the most extinctions. I have a pet peeve. I love cats, had cats, worked at vet clinics with lots of cats. Cats need to be an inside pet only. And I'm saying it. I hope any of my friends watching this who have outside cats feel guilty. Put your cat inside, killing things for no reason.
For fun.
They're about as horrible as humans sometimes.
Sure, yeah. But sometimes some of them have more attitude than humans sometimes too.
God, yeah. I love my cats, but I want them inside. They're not coyote food if they're inside, and they're not eating anything else if they're inside.
Shoot, if anybody in the live chat right now, Gomez Pythons, I see you, even though you're late, don't worry about it. If any of you guys, right now is the time. If you guys have questions for Shanti that you want me to ask her right now is the time to drop a question in the chat, because we're winding into time where we're going to be going into the after show, which you're all welcome to as well. But if you are not coming there, you want to ask your question, now is the time. And also, you had some.
And if anyone's interested, there's swag.
Yes, you can go to the link in the description. You can find Shanti over there on Facebook as well, and their page.
Hit me up and we'll mail you a shirt.
Yes, go hit her up.
They're $20 and $5 shipping. And
it's going to support, obviously, this is somebody we need out there teaching. You got a great. I can see why you've done well with the educational stuff, because it takes somebody that can, like yourself. You can't just be sitting there twiddling your thumbs. You gotta be going forward and outward, and which you are definitely doing. I'm very appreciative that you brought on animals to show us. This is fantastic.
Oh, absolutely. You guys are like my life. We haven't had any paid gigs going for a while, but my son's school, they've been super supportive during the COVID pandemic stuff, and they are a little tiny bilingual Montessori school. So I was like, they haven't had any fun programs this year, so I told them I would bring the animals over tomorrow. That's the last day of school. So we're just taking the critters over to hang out in the morning and play with the kids for a while. So it'll be good. Not paid, but it's still getting the mission accomplished. So.
Oh, you know what? Let's go back to. I got a picture you sent me here. Well, here's a picture of you doing an indoor event. This must have been last year, I'm assuming, because it's inside. You got your big tortoise there. You got a bunch of kids. This is the classic. That's the classic look at everybody. Look at every single kid's eyes in that. I'm looking at all the eyes in the room. Maybe there's one girl off to the side that maybe had to glance over to the side for half a second, but I bet her eyes turned right back. You've got everybody, even the kid. That kid looks like he's 2. He's looking right at you with that animal. You've got the full attention of that crowd right there.
I love it. I really love it. And it's just that they're excited. They really want to see it. They're not sitting there texting and playing on their phone. And they're not trying to like TikTok and Twitter and whatever the hell else apps they got on their phone. Right now, I have them in my hand. They're putty. And I'm like, You will love it. Tell me you love it. Like, make them engage. I do a lot of call and repeat stuff. So I'll tell them, hey, what sound does the hissing cockroach make? And we'll go over that. We'll tell them the sound they make. So then they make it. And I say, what sound does a tarantula make? They all have to think about it for a minute. It's like, well, I don't think it makes it. And then I'm saying, like, some of them hiss, and some of them aren't sure, and like, it's just trying to get them to engage back. It's not just me talking at them for 45 minutes. I really try to get them going. If it's a small enough group, I'll walk the animal around during the presentation and let them touch and pet the different parts of the animal I'm talking about. If it's a huge crowd, like where we had 200, 300 kids, it's like we get through the presentation and then we make basically an assembly line, and they all walk by the table and touch all the bones and skin and the furs and all the things. They get to see the tarantula up close because it's hard to see them even when I pull them out when you've got that many people in an auditorium. So really, really love getting their attention and getting them excited about stuff. Like Buzzbert here is one of my best, but I can like poke his little spinneret, show them like, here it goes for his butt, move his face. And it's like, it just makes them giggle. They're like, what? Like it's just something they think about. And then all of a sudden, like, but they have a really cute butt. It's fuzzy. I'm like, they're like an 8-legged kitten. Just all these little funny things. And then all of a sudden, it's not alien. It's not scary. It's something they relate to. Ah, all right, cool. Like they're over it real quick, because kids only learn to be afraid of things that people tell them to be afraid of. The minute you tell them they don't have to be, okay, their brain just switches. It's really easy to engage and get them to click and stay like that if you can have something for them to get excited about.
Totally. Ooh, Puget Sound Pythons had a great question, which is what is the best way to support creature teachers right now during this time when you're not able to do so many shows? I mean, obviously you have the shirt.
That is a fantastic question. Yeah, right now, if you can't book a presentation, if you're not local where we can come to you and that kind of stuff, the best thing we've been able to do is have people buy our t-shirts. Because I can mail those anywhere. I've been mailing them to Australia to one of our Patreon supporters. I've been mailing them all over the place. That's a big one. They're $20 a shirt. It doesn't matter what size. I have things from small to like triple extra large right now. They are $20 and $5 for shipping. It usually goes over the $5 of shipping, but I don't want people paying an arm and a leg. So as long as most of it's covered, I'll eat some of the cost. But that's been the big one, because that is something I can give to people. So I'll throw a couple of stickers in with the shirt or something like that. I'll try, if I remember to, I'll try and take a little Polaroid or a picture of one of the animals and throw it in with them and stuff like that. But it's mostly just, that is the easiest social distancing thing that people can support. I mean, if they want to, there's absolutely the option to get on Patreon and subscribe and support us that way. That is still something new that I have to continually remind myself that I have to push for, because I'm not really a big Patreon person. So I have to remember, oh yeah, people may just want to support me and can give me money. And I have to remember to actually talk about that, because I've had my Facebook page for years now, and I usually just post on there. But our Patreon is always a huge way to support us. I
can tell you, I'll be joining that tonight for sure. For certain.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. We have our PayPal and stuff like that, but I can send you later. But there's all kinds of different ways. It's really just, where's your comfort level? Not everybody's been able to work through the pandemic. It's been hard for a lot of people. If you want to, like Christmas and all this other stuff coming up, or if you're just trying to find a way to show for the swag and the shirt's probably the best way to go. Patreon's always another option too, if you're not looking for a shirt and more clutter in your house. So totally up to you. That was a great question.
Awesome. Yeah. Rads, Pythons, and Mo is wondering if I'm assuming you do because of the distance you travel, but if you go to Medford.
Oh, yeah. We've been to Medford a couple different times. Usually if it's a birthday party, the fuel and the travel and that cost gets a little bit much for the people who have had us out. So we usually try to have those parties during times when we have library shows out there, because then the libraries are paying for our travel, and it just happens that this week we'll be in this area if you wanted to do your birthday party. So we've tried to do that a few times, and that seems to be more financially reasonable for a lot of the people who want to have their reptiles at their party.
Oh, bringing out the big guns.
It's my girl. I got her 2 years ago from my friend Jeff. This is my Gila Monsters, Margarita.
That's cool.
Yeah, she's a good girl. She's a good little sausage lizard.
So awesome. Look at how, oh man. It doesn't get old checking out animals. As much time as I've spent looking at animals, you just see, especially one like that. Especially with
She's
somebody like you
incredible.
holding it. Look at that thing. It's just amazing.
See, and this is another thing that makes me laugh. Venomous lizard. In Arizona, endangered species, super protected, can't mess with them. Here, I don't have to have a permit for her. It just boggles my mind.
Yeah,
The
so
rules are crazy.
totally crazy. Very interesting. Ooh, I wanted to pull up one more. I think it might be the thumbnail pic actually, but you gotta. I wanted to talk about this because it seemed to me like a Steve Irwin moment of your own, where you had this Womo python, and it. What did it do? It latched onto you in the middle of a presentation.
Yes. Yeah, my friend Wendy was there able to catch those photos, thankfully. But yeah, it was an extremely rowdy crowd at that library. I'm pretty sure it was Forest Grove. I can't remember, but the kids were like crazy. Their parents thought it was daycare or something, dropped the kids off and would just like be in the back, peaced out. Kids were throwing soda cans and pencils, and like they were bonkers. I'm like, yo, this is still a library. They were crazy.
Oh,
so they're throwing stuff, being nuts, being loud, being screaming. And, you know, we can only shush them so many times politely throughout a presentation. And then sometimes I just stop talking and all of a sudden everyone gets real quiet. Why'd you stop talking? I'm like, well, you can't hear me. And then all of a sudden they get quiet again, but it only ever lasts for a couple of seconds. So you find a lot of creative ways to shush people. But that was by far the most effective shushing I have ever experienced. One of the kids, I was holding my Woma, and he's normally a little bit more twitchy, so usually he's not one of the petting ones. He's just a looking one. But we talk about all the cool stuff. So I have him out, and this kid pretends he's going to hit him, jumps up from the floor and pretends to whack at him. And Willie just whoop, right onto my arm. I'm like, and it didn't hurt. I was just like, damn it. I mean, like, because now their tiny little teeth going to make things bleed. It's all shallow, teeny tiny teeth. So it's going to look awful because it's going to bleed. So I'm like, thank God I'm wearing my dark shirt. So I'm just like, cover his head while he's biting into me so that he's not like stressed out. But it keeps sliding up because he's just at that spot where it's like everyone can see he's latched onto my arm. He's not just hanging out. And then everyone went dead silent. It was like a graveyard. And I was like, I hope you all feel good. Y'all being loud and noisy and scared my poor Willie. And now he's bit me because he's thinking he was going to get hit. And all of a sudden, a little bit of embarrassment and guilt worked wonders. Parents showed up out of nowhere, got their kids sitting down. Everybody chilled out, was quiet. We finished the last, 25 minutes of the presentation we had left. He was stuck on my arm the whole time. I was in the moment. I was like, I remember when that python bit Steve Irwin in the neck. And he was just like, totally chill. And I was like thinking about that. I'm like, be chill, be cool. It'll be fine. It doesn't hurt. His teeth have gone right through the shallowest part of my skin. So he's just stuck. He can't let go unless I go help him. And I'm not going to rip his head off my arm. So I just sat there for the rest of the presentation, finished that. And then I went to go get our last guest, the big python I had. And so I went back and I pulled his head off and put him back in there. And everyone went, because they thought he was loose. And then they're like expecting blood and all this gore. And I'm like, he's stressed out, so we're just going to let him be in his cage. He's not going to come out for petting or anything. And every kid that walked by at the end of that presentation was like, I hope you're okay, Willie. And they're like petting his tank, and they're like, I'm so sorry we scared you. We'll be quiet. And they're shushing each other in line and telling each other to be quiet because they had empathy all of a sudden. It wasn't just some random animal. It was an animal that got scared because of what they did. And it hurt someone else because of what they did. And all of a sudden, this empathy was starting to grow, and they were scolding and tattling on each other when they were being too loud or being naughty. Or it was just incredible because it was like, hey, you just had a growth moment right there. Doesn't necessarily have to be that you love that snake, but you just had you're going to be a better person now because of that experience right there. Because you have that, you're okay calling others into accountability. You're okay being that person that has to speak up and say something. And if you were that person causing the problem, maybe you feel a little bit of shame and you'll be able to check yourself later. Like I was very proud that I was able to maintain my composure and get the message across for the kids. The adults were just shocked that stuff was happening. Their brains like shut off mid-bite, and they just kind of gave up and quit talking. And that was a huge thing. I was just like, I don't know what they were expecting out of me, but the kids got the message, so hopefully they did too.
It's fantastic. That's a great story. I love that.
It's one of my favorites because I don't try to share bite stories a lot. I've had too many friends that it's all like the machismo. Hey, I got bit by this thing. I'm like, that's nice. I try to tell people how I didn't get bit because I wasn't complacent and I was careful. But it happens. Stuff happens. I've been bit by my naughty little baby retic I don't know how many times. And that's with using hemostats and tongs. He's just naughty. Some of them are going to bite you. But I don't try to share bite stories because I don't want to encourage that fear that usually comes along with it. But that was specifically, the snake was afraid of the kids. It was not the kids afraid of the snake. So it's a good story to share.
Oh, yeah.
Usually it helps grow a little bit more empathy and compassion with the kids that hear that story. So
definitely. Well, listen, Shanti, we're about to jump in the after party here, but I really want to thank you for coming on to our show tonight. You've done a fantastic job. You have been doing a fantastic job with everything you've been doing. I can see why you do good at it because you got a great way of present. It's fantastic. I appreciate you for coming on here. And
I really, really appreciate Lance getting us connected and having you have me on. It was my first type of podcast or anything like this. So I'm glad it's been enjoyed, and I hope all the viewers enjoyed my animals. I brought a whole bunch. I wasn't sure what to bring out, but hope everybody enjoyed them and didn't mind hearing me drone on for a while.
No, I think we all loved it. I know I did. I'm sure everybody else did too. Oh, one last thing. Do you have hoodies?
I do not. Hoodies for sale? No.
Okay.
I have t-shirts, just t-shirts right now. We didn't have enough money to go for the big hoodies yet. So right now we've got like 150 shirts. So maybe once those sell, we can get some hoodies. But right now, no hoodies, but it is on the goal list to get some hoodies going.
No worries. Well, hey, sis, I'll see you in just a minute in the after party, okay?
Sounds good. Thank you.
Well, guys, what a fantastic person. That was awesome. I'm looking forward to being able to go up to Oregon and check her show out in person. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to join her Patreon tonight. I heard that the Facebook link is broken in this thing right now. I'm going to go and fix that as soon as the stream is over so you guys can go in there and find the link. Otherwise, you just search Creature Teachers on Facebook and it'll pop right up. I'm going to go and add the link below to her Patreon as well as soon as this stream is over. So make sure you go check her out. Obviously, she's doing really big things to the world of reptiles and is doing a really good job at it. You want to support people like that because most important ever. And for myself, vlog channel, go check it out if you haven't already. All kinds of fun PG-13 content over there, semi-family friendly. And Searchables Reptiles podcast with my buddy Garrett. We're having Jimmy Cruz from Ball Life on the day after tomorrow. And that should be a lot of fun. There's some good stories from Jimmy. If you know Jimmy, this is going to be one to watch for sure and listening to all major podcast platforms. But thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate you. I didn't even realize that Cajun rock was a genre until Shanti told me about it, but that's what she picked, so that's what I'm gonna do, and I'm hopefully gonna give you guys something that's actually worthy of listening to and stuff. But like I said, I'm letting the guests pick the genre, so I'm gonna give it my best. Hope y'all like Shanti Kriens. Now it's time to smoke some Portland greens. Triple B will never stop. We're taking this one straight off the top. Now it's time to tell you who the next guest is. Coming straight from Canada. He got a little show on TV. Cut and muzzle it all. Yeah! Woo! And I think I just gave away the name, so there's nothing for you to guess no more. Cajun rock, there it is. Hope you guys had fun tonight on the stream. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other. We'll see you on the next one. For now, we're going to the after party. Link in the description if you want to join us. See you later. Bye.